Good day, everyone. Today's lecture will on history of biology education. We are starting with nature and scope of biology. When we say nature of something, nature actually means the quality or features or characteristics of something. That is the quality inherent by a particular thing. So when we talk about nature of biology, for example, we're saying that what are the characteristics? What do you mean by biology? What are the features of biology? When you see knowledge about biology, or when you see something that is related to biology, what are those things that you see, or what are those things that make up, you know, the nature of biology? So looking at that, the nature of biology, we know that biology is the study of living things and its interaction with the living environment. It could also be referred to as, simply the study of life. Biology is also a natural science that studies living organisms. And it studies living organisms, studies their structures, their function, how they grow, how they are distributed over the surface of the world or the earth, the evolution, their interactions with the environment. So biology actually focuses on all aspects of life and its processes. It explores the diverse aspects of life at various levels of organization. That is from the, will I say, the tiniest or the smallest to the biggest when you talk about life, when we're considering about life. So the nature of biology is what is about life, is about studying life. So when any knowledge is based on life, it is biological. And now when we talk about when we still talk about biology, we can also say that it's a natural science that studies the physical structure of organisms. That is, it studies the physical structure of organisms, how organisms appear, how they are made up. And this includes the cells, the tissues, the organs, even the systems. You understand that these are the structures that made up each organism. You have some organisms that are at cellular level, that is, they're just made up of cell, maybe one cell. And you have some that are just at tissue level. And you have some organisms that are so complex that they have both the cell, the tissue, the organs, and even the system. Biology is also, the nature of biology also studies the chemical processes that occur within organisms. That is, the process, not just studying the structure, not just studying the physical structure of organisms, but also biology is also involved in the study of the chemical processes. That is, things that happen within organisms, including the molecular interactions and the biochemical reactions. That is why when we talk about how organisms survive, maybe respire, now we can talk about the chemical, the chemical composition. So that is what we mean by chemical process. Is a chemical process. Respiration is a chemical process in organisms, especially in mammals. Biology, the nature of biology also involves the physiological mechanisms. When we talk about physiological mechanisms, that is how organisms function internally, that is including the development and evolution, that is how they function internally, how those organisms internally they function, that is how the processes, yes, let me put it like that, how the processes within the organisms, how they function. Like for example, how excretion takes place, how respiration takes place, how digestion takes place. All these are mechanisms that we refer to as physiological mechanisms. So how they take place within organisms, they are part of those things that helps in the development of organisms. Now, biology also is also, the nature of biology also involves the study of scientific methods. Don't forget that biology is a science. So it involves scientific methods, which involves making observations, forming hypotheses, conducting experiments. So it involves conducting experiments. That is, biology, the study of biology as its nature, being a science, is made up of scientific method. And what does it do? It makes observations. That means observations about life, observation about life processes, forming hypotheses about about life, or conducting experiments. But the main thing is that all these are based on life, that is organisms that are living. Now let's look at scope. We are considering nature and scope of biology. Scope means the extent of something. That is, when you talk about biology now, what is the extent to which you can say that yes, this is biological knowledge? The extent to which something deals with, or it is relevant. That is, the extent to which we can say that yes, this subject matter, this knowledge is part of biology. So the scope of biology is very broad. The scope of biology is very broad. Don't wonder in some cases people used to say that biology is too wide. Yes, as we go on, you will see so many disciplines under biology. It covers the study of life. That is, it's covered the biology. The scope covers the study of life. Anything that has got to do with life is biology, right from the molecular level to the global level. Now, when we get to what we mean by molecular level, that is from how cells function, that's molecular level. How cells function within the body of a complex organism, or how cells function within the body of unicellular organisms, to the global level, that is the global scale. When we talk about the global level, we're talking about the study of biosphere, which includes all parts of the planet that are inhabited by living things. That is, when we say biosphere, biosphere means the part of the earth that are inhabited by living organisms. So when we now say that from molecular to the global level, that is from the smallest level of life to the widest, where you have so many organisms existing, wherever they are existing on the planet. Now we also have the ecosystem, is also part of the scope. Ecosystem is the study of communities of living organisms in an area, along with the non-living features of the environment that supports them. So when we talk about ecosystem, we study how living organisms, the scope includes how living organisms are able to interact with their environments, their immediate environment, maybe with the living organisms, or maybe with the non-living components of that particular environment. And when we say that with their environments or in their area, that is the community where they are. The scope of biology also covers evolution. Evolution simply means that, or is the study of how organisms change over time. That is, after some time, organisms begin to change. And it also covers genetics, which is the study of how characteristics or inherited information is being passed on through generations. That is, from one parent to parents, or from one parent to the offspring, maybe from the two parents, maybe from one parent to the offspring, and as that continues from generation to generation to generation, on and on. That is part of the scope of biology. Now let's look at the key aspects of nature and scope of biology. Now, in summary, looking at the scope, and I'm looking at the nature and scope of biology. That is, looking at the nature, that is what biology is, and the extent to which biology is. So we're going to look at the first one that I have here, is that it focuses on living organisms. Biology primarily studies living things, including their cellular component. So the first one that we have to conclude here, when you talk about the nature and scope of biology, you need to know, or we need to know, that it's primarily about studying living organisms, from either the smallest to the highest, from the smallest level then to the bigger level. So that is the first one. The second thing to note is that the biology study life at various levels of organization, from the molecular biology to a single cell, to the anatomy, to the physiology of all organisms, and the dynamic of population within an ecosystem. So at different levels, that is, you have the study of biology of life, which is biology, at a lower level, that is at the cellular level, at the molecular level, and even at a larger level, the population level, within an ecosystem. So as long as there is the study of biology, as long as the study of life, at whichever level that it is still within the scope of biology. Then I said earlier in the previous slide that biology, we have so many things under biology, and I said later I will tell you some of the disciplines. So under biology, I said that they used to say biology is so broad. Yes, it's so broad. Why? One of the reasons being that biology studies life. One of the reasons being that we have so many diverse lives on the surface of the earth, and everything has to be studied for our survival. Even those that are yet to be discovered. I said those that are yet to be discovered because, like for example, in 2020 we had a discovery of COVID-19. Maybe another one is coming. We don't know. We don't pray for it. But after 2020, we have had maybe a year later that another variant of COVID-19. They saw another variant of COVID-19. So invariably, what I'm trying to say is that whether there is the existing life or the life that will come later, the study will definitely come under the scope of biology, as long as it is the study of life. So because biology includes so many study of life at different levels, that is, it has different levels of approach. So we have what we call diverse, that is different subdisciplines, that is areas by which people can specialize. Like for example, genetics, which is about inheritance in whichever organism. So we have whichever organism. We have microbiology, which is mainly the study of microorganisms, that is life of microorganisms. We have another one that is described as ecology, that is relationship between organism and its environment, that is how organisms and environment interact. Then we have developmental biology, which is also known as embryonic development, that is how organisms develop from the tiny one to a bigger one in the embryo. That is how organisms are formed and how they develop eventually. We also have evolutionary biology. Evolutionary biology is all about the origin and diversification of species. We have lots of those disciplines or sub-disciplines under biology. We have botany, which is about studying of plants life only. We have zoology, which is about study of plants life only. We have physiology, which is about studying the processes that takes place in plants, or animals, or both. So we have a lot. Then we have another aspect, in summary, looking at the aspects of nature and the scope of biology. We have fundamental concepts. Key unifying concepts in biology include the cell theory. We have the cell theory, that is, when we talk about fundamental concept, that is, there are certain concepts that are fundamental, to whichever level, to whichever aspect one needs to or one wants to specialize. Now, the first one here is cell theory. The cell theory, the definition of cell is the basic unit of life. That is, cell is a basic unit of life. So the theory we have here, what this theory is saying is that once an organism is alive, or once something is called living, it's going to have minimum of a cell. That is, it's going to have at least a cell, because it is at the cellular level that organisms function. That is, all the functions or all the characteristics or the features that are being carried out by organisms that make them to be referred to as living are carried out at the cellular level. And that is why if an organism is made up of a cell, it can carry out all the activities. If an organism is made up of many more cells, it can carry out those activities. So when we say that the cell is the fundamental or the basic unit of life, and that means that the basic unit that anything needs to be referred to as having life is a cell. Then another theory, another fundamental concept is the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution says that organisms change over time. That is, after some time, organisms begin to change over time after they have been in existence, but they also change. Then you have another fundamental concept or theory that is referred to as the genetic code. DNA as the basis for heredity, saying that DNA is the basis for heredity. We are all aware now that yes, even those that are not scientists, they now know what we mean or what we refer to as DNA. So when we talk about DNA, they talk about DNA as the basis for the heredity, and it is the the genetic, what we refer to as the genetic code. That is, for organisms to pass characteristics or features from parents to offspring, definitely there are certain things that will be present within that character that will be passed on, that we refer to as DNA, and it is a genetic code. That is, it is for the purpose of inheritance. Then we have another aspect here, which is as applications in various fields. Biology is so much relevant that it has its application in various fields. The biological knowledge is so crucial that it has its application in so many fields. It's crucial. Biology is very crucial for advancement. It is nowadays in our country, nowadays biology is not compulsory again. Gone are the days, so many years ago, biology used to be compulsory, because biology is so much relevant to our advancement. And despite the fact that it's not compulsory, you will agree with me that biology finds its relevance. We can find the relevance of biology in so many areas. Number one I have here is medicine. For you to be able to read medicine, for someone to study medicine, which involves, whether it's veterinary or human medicine, that involves studying animals. To study animals and know how to treat animals, you need to actually study that life first. Study that life, study the processes within, so that when the process is interrupted, you know what to do to bring it about, to bring about the normalcy, because that's all what medicine is all about. And that is why at secondary school level, for someone to be admitted to study any biological sciences, we need to have studied biology, not because they are biology, but because certain knowledge are relevant for those particular career. For medicine, biology is applicable. The knowledge of biology is applicable in medicine. The knowledge of biology is applicable in agriculture. If you don't know the life cycle, which will be taught, which must have been taught in biology, the agric will not be able to use it. So it's the biological knowledge of different types of plants that are given to agriculturists that made them to know when to plant and what to plant at what time. It is also useful or applied in biotechnology, useful and applied in environmental conservation, and also in forensic science. We have so many areas where we use biology. These are just few examples. Now let's look at what we mean by the next aspect we're going to look at. Now we're looking at philosophy of biology. Now when we talk about philosophy, generally philosophy simply means asking questions, asking deep questions, thought-provoking questions that most times are not being given answers. So when we talk about philosophy of biology, it actually deals with biological knowledge. That means that when uh, philosophy, or maybe we say that philosophical questions. When we talk about philosophical questions, like I said the other time, that they are deep thought-provoking questions. Those questions, they explore, some fundamental concepts. Now, when we now talk about philosophy of biology focuses on philosophical questions that are related to biology knowledge, that is, that are related to biological knowledge, especially the critical analysis of foundations and implications of biological knowledge and practices. They are questions that are deep and thought-provoking, that explores some fundamental concepts like existence. For example, if somebody now raises a philosophical question and begin to ask life, what do we mean by life? How do you come about life? How does it come into existence? What makes it come? What makes it go? Those are examples of philosophical questions. So when we talk about philosophy of biology examines the concepts, methods, and theories within biological sciences. You say within biological sciences. Why? Because we have philosophy in some other areas. In fact, philosophy of biology is actually, maybe we say, a sub-discipline from philosophy of science. So which means that when you look at a philosophy of science, we have philosophy of biology there, we have philosophy of chemistry, we also have philosophy of physics. Each of these ones are different from each other. So when we talk about philosophy of biology is actually a philosophy that examines, that is, thought-provoking questions, that examines the concepts, methods, theories within biological sciences. It explores deep questions about biology that scientists might not always address. For example, when I say questions that scientists might not always address, like for example, scientists will tell you the development of life, we tell you what you mean by cell, we tell you or difference, we tell you certain things about, or we teach you certain things about biological knowledge. But scientists are not going to explore questions like, or things like relationship between gene and behavior. While I was mentioning or talking about nature of biology, I say that nature of biology also includes genetics, which is how characters or characteristics or features are being passed from offspring, from parents to offspring. Like for example, if you look at yourself, if you are fair in complexion, maybe one of your parents is fair. If you are so dark, maybe one of your parents is so dark. Now, that is what, or maybe even be your grandparent. So what biology is saying as a science is that characteristics, maybe of color, is being passed down maybe from your grandparent to your parent, and from your parent to you. That's what genetics is saying. And now genetics is also saying that it is not only the gene of color that you inherit. There are some other genes that one inherits from parents. It could be characters, that is the way the person talks, the way the person looks, the way the person visualizes things, the way the person behaves. So, but philosophy of biology may ask questions like, what's the relationship between gene and behavior? So that's why I'm trying to explain that when you talk about philosophy of biology try to raise or explore deep questions that scientists, might not always address. They will teach you, scientists will teach you how it's being passed from, how something is being passed, gene or characteristics or features are being passed from parent to offspring. And we also teach you or tell you that yes, it is because this particular gene is passed from parent to offspring. That is why the offspring has this particular color, or the offspring have this feature, or the offspring have these characteristics. But we not always tell you, or we not begin to raise questions like what's the relationship between gene and a behavior. So when you begin to have this analytical type of question, explore this deep analytical thought-provoking questions, then it is philosophy of biology. It also examines history and science of biology. That is, philosophy of biology also examines the history and science of biology, such as evolutionary biology. You know, the evolutionary biology says that organisms change over time. So, in philosophy of biology, it will examine something like that and debate like Charles Darwin's theory of evolution and succession. What does Charles Darwin theory says? The Charles Darwin theory of evolution and succession simply says that when organisms, in a particular place, organisms survive because of particular character or characteristics that are of virtue. So it is organisms in a particular place that are of better virtue that will survive in a particular place, and those that could not survive will not be able to succeed. And so that those that could survive, they will continue to pass on that virtue or that characteristic from generation to generation. They continue to evolve and succeed. Then we also have philosophy of science examining something on developmental biology. Developmental biology is about thought-provoking questions on interactions between evolutionary and developmental biology. Trying to look at developmental biology is about organisms grow gradually from the miniature form, the molecular form, let me put it like that, to the adult form. And evolutionary is also saying again that organisms change over time. So it is possible for philosophers of biology to raise questions, deep thought questions about the relationship between the two. And we also have questions that could be raised on environmental philosophy. That one is simply the ethical and policy issues that are related to the environment. Then we also have teleology. Teleology examines issues that are related to biological teleology. When you talk about teleology, teleology is simply saying that something happens just because of something, due to one particular thing. So we also have systematic biology, which examines the roles of classification in biology. Don't forget, these are aspects of philosophy of biology, which is trying to say that these are areas where thought-provoking questions that are or that needs to be answered when you think philosophically are usually being directed to. We also have some other aspects like interlevel relations in biology. That one examines the relationships between levels of biological organization. So that is, when you have biological organizations like cell, tissue, organs. So now, what's the relationship? When you have thought-provoking questions related to that, then it is being philosophical. We have other aspects such as evolutionary ethics, epistemology. Epistemology is simply on knowledge. Or then we have biological information, biological function, that is how life, different lives function. We could have philosophical questions on these ones. We also have biological classification as well as a biological heredity. So I think with this, we'll be able to understand that is, with the lecture so far, you'll be able to understand what we mean by nature of biology, scope of biology, as well as a physiology of biology. Thank you for listening.